That is it. Although, Steve, I did have one more thing I'd written down to talk about.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it.
I did not go to Apollo this cruise, but I did go to Subway.
Man.
Steve, I'm Team Subway, like all the Team Subway. Hashtag Team Subway.
I think I'm going to be getting grief about that for the rest of my life.
I mean, I just don't even understand that Subway comment. I do get it. Did you eat at Steve's favorite little...
Oh, the shawarma place?
Yes.
No, that looked way too healthy for me. No. I never ate that.
All that green lettuce and everything like that they put with it?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I love you. I love you giving me a hard time about that, Amber. That's awesome. So I am a Subway fan too. I freely admit that. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show our co-host from PackYourPixieDust.com. How are you doing today, Christy?
I am well. How are you, Steve?
Not too bad. 2 days in a row, you're stuck with me.
It's been a lot of Steve this week.
It is. It's like some behind stuff that people don't people don't realize. But 2 awesome shows this week, and I'm really excited about this one because we are going to get to talk about one of the latest DVC member cruises, and I would like to welcome back to the show Amber from Florida. How are you doing today, Amber?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, definitely. And I want to get to the French fries too and make sure that we cover those at some point, so don't let me forget about that.
So many French fries.
So just to jump in, you were lucky enough to do the DVC member cruise out here on the West Coast. Can before we talk about the cruise, we'll talk a little DVC with you, but can you kind of go over the itinerary for everybody as to where it went?
Yeah, it started in San Diego, and then day at sea, and then San Francisco, day at sea, Victoria, Canada, and then it ended in Vancouver, Canada.
And this was on the Wonder, so it was kind of from her, after she came across and did the Panama Canal, she sails down around San Diego for a little bit, down to Mexico, and then has made her way up to Vancouver for the Alaska summer sailing. So to do a DVC member cruise, you have to be a DVC member, so I'm assuming that you guys are, right?
Yeah, we own at Saratoga Springs.
Okay, and how long have you guys been DVC members?
Not too long, maybe 2015.
Okay, and I just kind of want to give a background. I mean, we don't really talk a lot about DVC on this show. Christy and I are members, so we've hinted on it a little bit. But what are some of the things that you guys like to do with your DVC points? Now, you're living down in Florida. Obviously, you can go over to Walt Disney World. But where have you used your points, and what are some of the vacations you've enjoyed?
We use a lot of points for like 1 or 2 night stays at Walt Disney World because I live about 45 minutes away. And then we've also gone to Aulani twice with our points. So just traveling to Aulani alone on points has been a huge money saver for us.
Yeah, it's amazing. Christy, have you ever priced out what Aulani costs?
I have. It's expensive. I mean, it's an amazing resort, though. So it's kind of worth it.
No, I mean, go ahead, Christy.
DVC is so much better.
Yeah, I could personally never, I just know I could never afford it if I didn't have points. And it is amazing, and it is worth it, but just me, I couldn't do it as frequently as I do if I didn't have any points.
Our hotel, our crew hotel in Maui used to be, this is kind of a side note, used to be next to the Grand Wailea, which is a really beautiful resort. And actually, I was listening to something a while ago that you used to be able to use your DVC points there, but you can't anymore. And through RCI, I think, or it wasn't RCI. There's like, DVC has these like, whatever something concierge collection or something like that, but I would put Aulani right there with the Grand Wailea, and both just 2 beautiful, stunning resorts. I don't think you can get much better in Hawaii.
I agree. Amazing.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk a little bit about this members cruise. Now, as far as somebody who wants to go on a DVC member cruise, you have to be a DVC member. That's correct?
Yes. I mean, I don't quote me on this, but I could have booked like a second room for a friend of mine, but like my friend couldn't have booked like on her own.
And I guess that's what I meant. So when it comes to booking, how do you book a DVC members cruise? It's a little bit different, isn't it?
Well, I haven't booked a regular cruise through my membership ever, but I believe you just call member services and they set it up for you. I mean, that's what I did for this one.
And I guess that's what I meant was that you don't go through the regular Disney Cruise Line site to book it either online or anything else. You actually have to call member services to be able to do it. And then, like you said, I guess you can book a second room. So not everybody on board with you has to be a DVC member, but it has to be a DVC member that books it.
Right. Or like I could have booked a room, me as a member, and I could have brought friends in my room who weren't members, because they do a lot of sales presentations on board to, get people to buy more points or people to buy points as their first contract.
And I guess the last thing, just talking about the booking itself, is you can either use cash or points. And how did you guys book this one?
We used cash because it is a lot of points that we don't have. Or I should say, we had some, but we wanted to save them to use them at hotels.
As far as using cash or points for a DVC cruise, I believe everybody basically in the world of DVC feels like it's not a very good use of your money. But if you are going to lose those points, then it's better to use the points to pay for a cruise than lose them. But in the world of DVC, my understanding is that the best way to use those points, if you really need to see the dollar value for them, is to rent them out, take that money and apply it towards cruise.
Yeah, go ahead.
Really expensive for a weekend, or like for a cruise in an inside cabin, wasn't it? It's like 244 points or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, depending upon the cruise. And this is probably too much of a subject to really dive into right now. We'd have to really redo a whole show on it. But the only one that I saw that seemed like it might work, kind of, and people I'm sure would disagree with me, is when we did our 3-day cruise on the Wonder out of San Diego, and I looked at the point total for just my wife and I. Yeah, you could have made a little bit more money if you sold it, but if you weren't going to use your points for anything else that year, it actually wasn't too off as far as the value goes. But I think for the majority of cruises, you're much better off selling the points and then using your dollars to pay for it.
Isn't that what I said?
Yeah, it is what you said. I was just saying I guess what I was trying to throw in there is the only one that I've really seen when I've kind of played around with it was just that Mexico cruise, where there really wasn't that much of a price difference on it. But if you were going to use your points, if you had other plans to do Disney stuff that year, obviously you'd probably want to you're better off using your points to get more value out of it, to go stay at Aulani or go stay at Walt Disney World for a week versus a 3-day cruise on the Wonder, I guess is what I'm getting at. But that was the one time I saw where it would possibly make sense, I guess. Well, as far as this cruise goes, was there anything different, Amber, as far as registering beforehand? Now, obviously, I'm sure you could book Palo or shore excursions in San Francisco, but I was wondering, was there anything that you could register as far as the members' activities that were going to be on board? And did they give you kind of like an onboard itinerary or anything to expect before you left on this cruise?
No, and no. There was just the basic regular stuff to sign up for ahead of time. And usually, well, I shouldn't say usually, just based on what I've read, it's usually kind of a surprise, like what the special member things are on board. So no, there was nothing to do ahead of time except the things that you would normally do.
I was kind of curious, and I guess we could get on this too, because you guys stop in San Francisco, so like I'm sure that one of the big things that people could do there is go visit the Walt Disney Family Museum, and I was just kind of wondering if they offered, maybe special trips with maybe people that are on board that would actually take you through the museum and talk about the history or anything like that, if they had anything like that that you could pre-register for.
That was definitely a shore excursion. I didn't do it, but I do remember seeing that as a shore excursion.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your cruise then. So you fly into San Diego. Obviously, I'm guessing you flew in the night before. Did you guys do anything in San Diego the day before the cruise?
Not really. We flew in around like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, just kind of walked around, and we stayed at a hotel pretty close to where the ship docked. So nothing outstanding, just kind of walked around just because we'd never been there before. We went to bed super early because we had the crazy time change, and then we got up at 4 the next morning because of the time change.
Sounds about right. That's exactly
the worst. The worst.
Who did you travel with?
Oh, it was just my family. So me, my husband, and my daughter, and she's 4.
So how did you guys get down to the cruise port from your hotel? Were you guys close enough that you could walk, or did you guys take an Uber, or how did that work?
No, we could walk. It was like 3 blocks, so it was really nice.
Yeah, there's so many cool hotels down there. And could you see the ship from your hotel, just out of curiosity?
We actually could, and we were up at 4 in the morning, so we actually we could kind of see it barely, like pull into port.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Had you sailed? Well, you just said you hadn't. This is your first time in San Diego, so you hadn't sailed out of there before.
No.
So many cool things to do in San Diego for those who haven't been down there. There's the zoo, SeaWorld, Legoland's a little bit further north, and I think it's like an hour and a half to get up to Disneyland too. So a lot of things to do if you decide to sail on the Wonder out of San Diego.
We did a show too for our listeners, so they should go back and look for the show that we did on San Diego.
Well, let's jump into the cruise itself then. How was embarkation out of San Diego?
It was a piece of cake. I've gone on a couple cruises, not from Port Canaveral. Port Canaveral is just beautiful. I mean, the building is beautiful because I think Disney built it. This just seemed like you were in like a warehouse and they had put up some member cruise like sign. But nonetheless, it was a piece of cake. We got on board around noon.
And when you guys get on board, what was your thoughts as you kind of walk into the lobby there? Did they have a lot of things initially set out for the member stuff? I mean, what were they doing to get you guys excited about being at a DVC members cruise? I'm guessing there was a buzz just because everybody's doing this cruise, but did they do anything initially for it?
Actually, when we checked in, instead of getting the usual gold, silver, or platinum lanyard, they gave us a special member cruise lanyard, and had like a extra large pouch, I'll call it, and there was like a little booklet inside, and that kind of had all the special things, so you could kind of read up on that before you boarded. And then they just decorate the ship like crazy. There's just member cruise decals everywhere, like posters, anywhere that they could slap on a member cruise decal, there was a member cruise decal. It was everywhere. So that was fun.
So they had a kind of a paper navigator for you, huh?
We did get one paper navigator before we got on board, and then that was the last of the paper.
Christy?
No.
You're done for now.
In 3 weeks, right? We're gonna find out what's on the Dream these days, and my opinion will be known.
Well, you guys get on board. We'll just talk about the cabin quick. What kind of cabin did you guys have this time?
We were on deck 1. It was a ocean view with the 2 tiny portholes. Mm-hmm. That was my first time on deck 1, and I was a little nervous, but actually I really liked it. I was shocked how much I enjoyed being on deck 1. So it was midship, so it was like super close to the lobby and the restaurants and the shops. So I really liked it.
Yeah, we've got deck 2 booked on one of our upcoming cruises, and we've never been down there before. So could you hear a lot of noise by any chance, or what else did you like or dislike about it? I guess I'm just curious.
I literally disliked nothing, and I was shocked.
That's great.
I think just because we were so midship, that was also pretty awesome, because 2 quick flights up the stairs, you were in the lobby, which is where all the characters were. And then, another quick flight up the stairs was the Walt Disney Theater. And then one more quick flight was the Kids Club. So like 80% of the things I wanted to do was like 2 or 3 flights of stairs away from my room. So it was awesome. I will honestly be booking deck 1 and 2 again. I was a big fan. I was shocked. I liked it so much.
Well, that's good to hear, because I like you, kind of feel the same way. It's like I'm nervous to book down there, but I know that there's a lot of people that we've had on the show that have stayed down there, and so that's good to hear.
Yeah, I was super nervous, for real, but I liked it a lot.
That's great. I will say that on the Fantasy and the Dream, my understanding is deck 2 is much louder. And my mom was down on deck 2 for one cruise, and she did say a lot of noise came through from
okay.
above.
Well, so you guys have a good experience in your cabin, and then you've got kind of that booklet. And did that outline basically what was going to go on throughout the whole cruise, kind of like the highlights of it?
Every day it had like what special member cruise things were going on and then what time. But then, of course, the app had like everything laid out where you could, put your little hearts by stuff you wanted to do. And they also, when the room was ready, they gave us a Disney Files magazine, which is the magazine that normally we get in the mail as DVC members. It was a Disney Files magazine all about all the special things and all the celebrities that were going to be there. So actually, I used the magazine more than my little pamphlet that we got with the lanyard.
So you did get paper.
We did get a magazine, so yeah. But it didn't have any times in it. It just described all the cool stuff. So we still use the app a lot.
So I guess before we get into that, let's talk about maybe some of the food stuff and everything like that. Now, I can't remember, when was the last time you were on the Wonder? Had you been on that recently?
No, it had been forever ago. So I was super pumped for Tiana's because I'd never been there before.
And that's kind of where I was going with it. So I know you've been to the other restaurants, Animator's Palette and to Triton's. What was your thoughts on Tiana's place?
It was super awesome. Although, me, I'm not a big foodie at all. And we had late dining, which is my least favorite thing in the world. So we did go, first night was Tiana, so I was excited for that. We probably left a little early because I think when we left, the wait staff was like getting ready for a parade of some sort. So I may have missed something like super cool. But it was still awesome because Tiana walks around and Lewis walks around and the food was amazing. So, but after the beignets were served, we kind of scooted out of there and went to bed. But it was super fun. I was glad. I was excited to go there, and it was fun.
I guess, yeah. I guess I can ask that later. Sorry, I was sitting there thinking about, do you wish you would have flown in maybe even a day ahead of time, maybe like 2 days ahead of time to get on schedule, if that worked into your budget and time wise and everything like that, just so that you'd be on a little bit better time zone, so that you weren't so tired at night. But I know having late dining with a 4-year-old, that's a tough situation to be in anyways.
Yeah, I think regardless, I just me personally, I don't like eating that late at night, regardless of what time zone I'm in. So that was just me being weird about it.
No, you're not weird at all. I was just I was just kind of playing around in my mind if that might be something that we could throw out for people that maybe they could think about as far as if you're coming to the West Coast as far as time zones go. So
no, that's a good point.
Yeah. In the parade, Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's like near the end, they do kind of a parade where they kind of go through with the alligator, I forget the alligator's name, and they get the kids up and they do they kind of snake around through all the tables where the music's going.
Yes.
Yeah, I think just for whatever it's worth, I think that's probably about all you miss. But
okay.
Yeah, Tiana's place is cool. I really like the theming there. So
yeah, I did too.
Yeah, like the music and the food. Well, I guess the last thing to kind of talk about what were some of the things that, besides before we talk about some of the specific DVC member stuff, what were some of the things you were excited to do on board the ship when you got back on board with your family?
Honestly, for me, it was just all DVC stuff. I did not win any trivias. But there were not that many trivias because I think the days were so crammed with all these DVC member things. I didn't see as many trivias as I normally see. So I went to 2 and did not win any of those.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm guessing that anybody going on a DVC member cruise is probably a pretty serious Disney fan, so I'm guessing the competition was pretty stiff.
Oh, for real, because the first trivia was Disney Toons trivia, and I was feeling real good. I'm like, I think I'm getting all these right. And I knew I missed one because I just knew it. So as the guy's reading off everything, I had only missed the one, so I was pretty pumped. But then there was like 3 people that got 100%, so they won. So yeah, it was some hardcore fans on that cruise.
Yeah, you probably need to find some obscure cruise, leaving out of Shanghai or something like that.
Or actually just do like the Eastern Caribbean or a 4-night on the Dream.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And I that's what I need. I need like the easiest competition. I shouldn't put you in that boat because you only missed one. I would have missed a lot more than one, trust me. Well, let's turn to the DVC portion of it. When you got that booklet, what were some of the things that were laid out that just really got you excited before we talk about the specific events?
Well, the first page, I'm looking at my little magazine here. The very first page was about Aladdin because we actually got to see the movie Aladdin a week before everybody else got to see it.
What?
So that was a real big deal because I think we saw Aladdin on a Monday, and then it came out for everybody else in theaters on like that following Thursday or Friday, so maybe like 3 or 4 days ahead. So that was a big deal.
Did you have to check your phones?
Yeah, they told us 1,000 times, just don't bring anything. Don't bring a bag, bring nothing to the theater. Like even someone that was sitting next to me at the theater said they had taken their like smartwatch and they had made him put it in a bag. But I just didn't bring anything, and we had to walk through metal detectors and stuff. So yeah, it was definitely a big deal.
So I guess, what did you think of Aladdin?
It was cool. I was not excited to see it. Like, I guess I'll say that. I wasn't pumped to see it, and as I was watching it, I really enjoyed it. So from me having no expectations to enjoying it and telling people I enjoy it, so I would say it should be a huge hit. It was pretty cool. Have you guys seen it?
No.
No, we haven't seen it yet. I don't know. I hate to say this, but that was like actually one of my favorite movies when they started remaking a lot of the Disney, the Renaissance era, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I'll see it in the theater. I might wait until it comes out when you can see it like on DVD or something. My kids aren't really excited about seeing it, so.
That's why I was nervous, because
Yeah.
it's like I love this original one. Why do I need to see it again? But they kind of threw in some little twists that, like little side stories that made it interesting. So I liked what they did with it.
Yeah, so I think I'll see it when it comes out, but I don't know if my kids will ever watch it. But we're all kind of excited to go see The Lion King for some reason, so figure that one out. I don't know.
I'll probably see it on a plane. I'm big into watching movies on planes.
Well, okay, besides Aladdin, so that was a pretty amazing experience to be able to see that. And I guess maybe you can talk a little in general about this. Now, I mean, one of the special things about being on a DVC cruise is not only just the things that you get as far as swag and stuff that they give you and experiences that you have, like seeing Aladdin, is that they have people on board that were maybe associated with the movies or with some of the history and stuff like that. So was there anybody that kind of gave a talk about before or after the Aladdin movie? Did they have anybody on board for that?
Not specifically for Aladdin. They did have a presentation. Let's see. It says there was an art director from Pixar. He did a talk. I actually didn't go to that one, so I can't talk about that. But I will talk about, there were a lot of people who made things for ABC and Pixar and some of the Disney. There was a lot of Disney legends on board, so there was so much to do. I couldn't see it. I tried to do it all, but you just physically can't.
What about Oprah? She's a Disney legend, isn't she? Was she on board?
Let me check my magazine. No, Oprah was not on board.
She was too busy giving away cars on her show, I think, or something like that. So, well, let's just go day by day as far as like some of the different DVC experiences you experienced. So that first night, did you guys do anything that night? Out of San Diego.
I'm looking at I don't think so. The Disney Wonder had the new Sail Away celebration. So I think it's called Sail Away, like you're waving your hand. So that was different. They passed out these Mickey hands that were just a piece of paper, but you could like slip them onto your hand so you had them hand. And then the show was a little bit different. It was the same, general idea. They're just dancing and welcoming you. But it was cool to see a different Sail Away show for once. That was fun.
That's a cool sail away, too, as you kind of leave the city and go underneath the big San Diego Bridge, Bay Bridge.
It was a lot different than just leaving Port Canaveral, where there's really nothing to look at.
Yeah, and I think I cut you off. Go ahead if you had something you were going to add on to.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we did anything else that day besides not win trivia, and then we went to Tiana's.
Okay. So the next day is a day at sea, and I guess just in general, for people, your daughter's 4, was there anything really for her to experience as far as the DVC stuff, or did she spend most of her time in the clubs, or how did that work? She
did spend most of her time in the club, and I think besides her, there was like 3 other kids on board for the member cruise. No, for real, there was like, every time I dropped her in the club, there would be like 3 kids in there. It was crazy. Wow. How many, it was mid-May, and it's really not a kid-focused cruise. There's a lot of adult things to do. So she had the whole club to herself. I was a little nervous that she would not love it, but she still loved it, so that was good.
Well, so what did you guys do that first day at sea then?
The first day at sea, I was really excited because there was a Muppet performer on board.
Oh.
And his name was Bill Beretta, and he actually created the Muppet Pepe the Prawn. Like, that was his own creation. And he also does Rolf the Dog, and he does Swedish Chef, and he does the Manamana singing guy. So his show was amazing. He actually had Rolf on, he had Rolf on his hand, and then he also had Pepe, and he just did all the voices and talked about everything. He was awesome. That was so much fun to listen to. He was great.
So he actually performed for you guys while he was up on stage there too?
Yeah, actually, they warned us. They said, like, full disclosure, he's going to be showing some stuff, so you might not want to bring kids to this performance, because it's going to ruin some things. So they kind of let you know, like, stuff's going to happen here with this guy.
And was this in, like, the Walt Disney Theater, or was it?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in the huge Walt Disney Theater. I think he did his show once in the morning and once after lunch, so you could kind of plan your day to try to see all the things that you wanted to see. This by far was my favorite thing I did on board. He was awesome.
And how do they do it? Or I guess just the 2 shows make it, because I would imagine that those types of appearances get a big draw.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my little schedule. Like, he was in the theater, and then also at the same time there was something a little bit smaller in the Buena Vista Theater, like the movie theater. And then I think flip-flop at noon, it was the same thing. So you could kind of pick, there was kind of two major things going on, so you could easily do one before lunch and one after lunch.
So you saw him in the morning, and then what did you guys do in the afternoon and the evening then?
I think after lunch, there was another show with him. The show was called, I might be mixing my days up, but there was a show called Two Loud Bills, because this guy's name was Bill. And then Bill Farmer was on board, who is the voice of Goofy. So these two guys were just on stage with a moderator, and the moderator was just like throwing out things for them to do in their various voices that they do. And they were all saying, like, we haven't planned any of this. And they were just like ripping out voices, and they were having people in the audience try to do voices, and the audience was all terrible. But it was so much fun. So at the very end of the show, they had the Muppet guy do Jasmine as Pepe. And they had the other Bill, who was Goofy, do Aladdin as Goofy. And they sang that I Will Show You the World carpet flying song. So they sang the whole song as Pepe and Goofy. And it was, it was good stuff. It was hilarious.
Could you guys have phones in there?
We could, yeah. Which now that you mention it seems kind of strange. But yeah, we could have phones in there.
Sounds so awesome. You know, when I did the Panama Canal cruise last year, they did some different stuff, which I understand they do, but it's just not to this level. This is so much more. It's so plussed up.
That's why just reading all these blogs about member cruises, it just talks about all these things that are happening, and it's just jam-packed full of all these like amazing things. And then, of course, these two guys are just stuck on the cruise with you. So I ran into Bill Farmer, the voice of Goofy, at least 3 times. Like I shook his hand a couple times. I had him sign my kid's autograph book at one point.
Uh-huh.
Did you sign it as himself or as Goofy? I'm sure there's some rules behind that, right?
He signed Bill Farmer, his name, and then he put like parentheses Goofy. So.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I was just kidding. I know they have like some specific rules sometimes around that type of stuff. So
probably.
Yeah. Well, what about the evenings? What did they have? Some big? I mean, like. I hate to say galas, but did they have some pretty big things going on in the evenings then too to kind of celebrate DVC?
I'm flipping through my little magazine here. This evening was Frozen, like the regular show that's always on that ship. And actually it was canceled at the last minute because, actually I'm assuming it was canceled because the ship was very rocky. Like I'm talking like real bad. Someone told me that they were just passing out Dramamine like at guest services. Like I got real sick. My daughter got real sick. And they actually closed the window. We had those 2 portholes in our room. They actually closed the windows and locked them. And I'm guessing because we were on deck 1 and it was so wavy. That's just my guess. I don't know. But they actually wouldn't open the windows for like 3 days, which is kind of weird.
I didn't even know that was an option.
I know, because when we got in the room, you could see the little hinges. It just looked, I just thought it was for decoration. Like, oh, look at this old-timey window closing thing on a ship. But then they were locked later that evening, and we couldn't open them. So we asked the person cleaning our room, like, hey, can we open those windows? And he was like, nope. Can't do it. We're like, okay, that's fine. I'm assuming it was because it was so rocky.
Right.
But yeah, they canceled Frozen. Thankfully, they did the show like 2 days later. So we did get to see Frozen.
Had you seen it before, or was this the first time?
I had not seen it before.
Any thoughts on it, or had your daughter like it?
I mean, she loved it because
Yeah.
she's obsessed with Frozen. I am the opposite of obsessed with Frozen, but it was still cool. Like, I'm glad I saw it, but if it had stayed canceled, I would have been okay with that secretly. This was also Pirates Night, but since my daughter and I were throwing up, we missed Pirates Night.
Oh.
But that's all right.
Well, then you guys move into San Francisco the next day. Had you been to San Francisco before?
I had when I was like 13, so a billion years ago. So I was super pumped to go to San Francisco. We got up super early, I think just because we were probably still on Eastern time, because the ship was going to go under the Golden Gate Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So we rushed up there. It was probably around 6 a.m. And it sounds ridiculous, like the ship is just going under a bridge. But for some reason, it was like the coolest thing in the whole world. Like I took about 87 pictures that morning. And then same thing when we left later that day, we went under the bridge again. And it was once again the coolest thing in the whole world. I don't know why it was so cool, but you can see it from far away and you're getting closer. And then when you go right under it,
it's so close. That's why it's cool.
Yes, it seems like I could just jump up and touch it, which I clearly can't. But it was really cool. It was also, speaking of cool, it was freezing. It was freezing up there.
Well, like freezing for people in Florida or freezing for everybody?
No, everybody was bundled up. So I had like winter hat on, which I was probably the only person, but everybody was very bundled up.
Okay.
Yeah, May on the West Coast, it can be cool. Even those sailings out of San Diego, they go down to, and just for everybody, you can it's almost like, I mean, I don't want to equate it to Alaska, but you can have some pretty cool days in San Diego itself, well into June. Like you need to have a sweatshirt with you in the evening once the sun goes down. So it can be kind of cool out here. It's not quite that East Coast weather in June, or I guess this is May. Was it May?
Yeah.
Yeah, May. So,
this was May.
Yeah. And San Francisco is really weird in the summer because it's cold there in the summer compared to the rest of the country.
Yeah, I was Googling like before the cruise trying to figure out what to pack.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was shocked when it was like high 60s.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah, it can be pretty windy and cold in the summer. It's kind of I don't know if, yeah, anyways.
It was just really cold in May, like overall. It was cold in Michigan in May.
Huh. That's true. I know it snowed in a bunch of places like
Yeah.
in May, which was weird.
It is weird even for us cold people.
Well, what did you guys have planned for San Francisco then, or what did you guys end up doing?
We had booked on our own one of those hop on, hop off bus tours that just like takes you everywhere, just because I figured we were there for about 7 hours and I figured we could just see everything and do whatever we want in those 7 hours. We actually didn't really do that much, which I'm kind of disappointed with. But we kind of stayed on the bus the whole time. We went across the bridge on the bus, which was super cold. We got off at the other side of the bridge, took another 87 pictures, like hopped back on, just kind of tootled around. Then we walked down to where all those seals are. I think it's Pier 39. I might be making that up.
Down by Fisherman's Wharf?
Yeah, Fisherman's Wharf. We ate a bread bowl of chowder because I think it's like a law. You have to get a bread bowl when you're there. I walked by myself to Lombard Street because there's no way my daughter's going to walk to Lombard Street. Took a couple pictures and then walked back. We got on the ship probably around 2 or 3 o'clock.
Lombard Street is
it's like that super curvy street. I walked to the bottom of it.
Wow.
I should have walked. I'm kind of mad I didn't walk the top. Like I didn't walk down the street. I just walked to the bottom, and there was kind of a policeman directing traffic because there was like a ton of tourists just taking pictures down there. But that was cool just to like check that off the list, say I saw it.
Did you make it to Ghirardelli Square by any chance, or?
No, I kind of wanted to just to again check it off my list, but no, I didn't.
It's not all that exciting.
I mean, they have that at Disney Springs where you get the free chocolate, so I figured like it can't be the coolest thing of all time. Maybe it is the coolest thing of all time, and I missed it.
Yeah,
I missed it.
Yeah, I shouldn't say it's not all that exciting. It's kind of cool because they make great chocolates and stuff like that. But so no cable cars or anything like that either.
No, again, like I had all these grand plans, and then we didn't do that much. Like I said, I'm kind of mad at myself for not planning it out very well because that would have been cool.
Well, it just means it just means you have to come back.
Exactly. Like I want to go there for like a real vacation. Seems like there's a lot of little things to do, like the woods with those giant trees. Like that would have been cool. The Disney Museum we didn't see at all. That would have been cool too.
Yeah, you have to go back. I went to San Francisco for like 24 hours one time. I really wanted to eat rice in a cable car, but it was not allowed. No food was allowed to be consumed.
Boo.
They kicked you off, huh?
No, they just said no food is up. There were signs everywhere that said no food, so I didn't try to bring the food.
Gotcha.
Well, at least you didn't try and eat the pizza because I've heard San Francisco ruined pizza. So
Oh, that's funny.
I need to get some new jokes. I'll cut that out. I promise I won't put that in
Yeah.
there. That was kind of lame.
Boo.
Well, maybe it'll be good for people who find your jokes funny.
Dad jokes. All right. Definitely a cool city to go back to. So many cool different cool things to do. You got the wine country up north if you're into that. Sonoma and Napa, the redwoods if you want to venture a little bit further. The one place I went to that I was kind of shocked how small it was Alcatraz. I went there a long time ago. Have you been out there, Christy?
I haven't.
Yeah,
I was in San Francisco for one day.
Okay, yeah, the one day.
That was another excursion like that the cruise offered, and we just wouldn't have had time to do that and just kind of putz around the city. So we chose to putz around the city, but that looked super cool too.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to get Alcatraz, if you know you're going there, you can book that tour ahead of time, which is kind of cool because sometimes it does sell out, especially like maybe in the popular months where there's a lot of people traveling like in the summer and whatnot. So just another tip and trick, I guess, if you want to get out to Alcatraz. Well, I guess the other question I've got, so did you notice on the Navigator by any chance, or the app, a day in San Francisco, they weren't running a bunch of different things on the ship then, where they were like, as a DVC member, you weren't missing out on too much? They were allowing people to go to San Francisco and spend the day there?
Yeah, I'm looking at my little pamphlet here, and the first thing they have was at 4:15.
Okay.
So I'm guessing they were assuming everybody was getting off the ship.
And I guess I asked that before. They didn't have anything special, like, I know Jeff Curdy was on board. Like, he didn't lead any like tours or anything around San Francisco. It's like the Walt Disney Family Museum or anything like that, or
not that I saw. But I'll have to look at my book later. But they did have a presentation about the Family Museum. Mm-hmm. So like nothing like in person that you could go with a person that knew about the museum. But they did kind of tell us about the museum. I think I did that actually the next day. But that was one of the special presentations on board, was how they built the museum and how Diane Disney Miller, there was a lot of videos of her kind of telling her story about why she wanted to do the museum in honor of Walt Disney. That was super cool.
Yeah, I would really encourage anybody who's a Disney history buff or fan, if you ever make it out to San Francisco, it's in the Presidio. It's just it's an ex-military base, which doesn't really matter, but it's just a beautiful area, just huge trees. You get great views of the Golden Gate Bridge from the museum itself. They're always running different presentations or different what is it in our art world where they have different
like galleries.
Yeah. Well, like right now there's a whole thing on Mickey Mouse until January, I believe, like the history of Mickey Mouse that they're running. They've got a whole special gallery that they fill up with different artwork and whatnot, but I don't know if it's the best place for younger kids. I don't know if they get very much out of it, but definitely, older kids and adults that are interested in Disney history, especially learning a little bit more about who Walt Disney was. It's an amazing museum.
Yeah, just going back to the presentation that they had on board, it was pretty cool because they had videos of Diane Disney Miller, like Walt's daughter, talking about her dad and why she wanted to create this museum for her dad. And then they also had, I think it might have been her kids, or it might have been some other, I think it was her kids, because they were calling Walt like grandpa. They just kept calling him grandpa in the movie. And it's like, I was never alive when Walt Disney was alive, and clearly my daughter wasn't either. So it's kind of cool to like realize that like this was a real person who created all this stuff. Because I think people just kind of think of Disney as just a company, but it was a man who had a daughter and who had people that called him grandpa. It was right. It was really special.
That's awesome. Before we leave San Francisco, where did the ship dock?
It was right in the middle of everything. I'm going to make this up and say like Pier 27 or something like that. So going down to Pier 39 where those seals are and all the famous stuff was, it was a pretty short walk.
I'm trying to picture it in my mind. I've seen it. I've seen where they've docked. There's like the Embarcadero, which is kind of a main area where all the ferries come back and forth between Oakland and San Francisco, and that's a little bit of a ways to Fisherman's Wharf. So I'm guessing you're in between the Embarcadero and Fisherman's Wharf. So that's like a perfect place to dock to get to a lot of different things. And I think that's
10-minute, very casual walk.
Yeah,
down to Fisherman's Wharf.
Yeah, so you're definitely past the Embarcadero because that's a much longer walk, and they do have like some trains that run along. They have like did you see that old train that runs along the wharf there? Or along?
I didn't.
Yeah,
no.
It looks like something from the 1950s. Or 40s almost. I've never ridden it, but it's kind of a cool train that kind of just goes right along all those piers and stuff. So there's the opportunity for that too, as far as if you just want to explore on your own to get around the city a little bit along with the cable cars. Well, moving on to that evening and then your next day at sea, what were some of the things that you got to experience then, Amber?
Actually, that evening, the show in the Walt Disney Theater was a show about Toy Story 4. And the art director, it says Craig Foster, the art director, was on board. So he showed us a ton of clips from the movie. I feel like I saw probably 25 minutes of the movie. We saw the first 15 minutes, like straight through. And then they showed us a bunch of clips from the middle. So they kind of talked about just what the plot of the movie is. And they talked about Forky. We got to learn like where Forky actually comes from and what his personality is. And then they also showed us some little like hidden Easter eggs. And then since he was the art director, he talked a lot about how they created the look and feel of a lot of the scenes. So that was really cool.
Are you a Toy Story fan or?
Yeah. So this was pretty neat. I got to see a lot of the movie, which I wasn't expecting.
Not to give anything away, but could you give maybe one of the hidden Mickeys or hidden secrets? Do you remember one?
The only one I really remember was at one point they are in a antique store, and I don't know if you've seen pictures from Toy Story 4, but there's like those creepy dolls. They're in the antique store, and I guess now I can't remember, but that silly gum commercial from Inside Out. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where like Anger kept like showing the gum commercial in their mind, and he was like, "No, not the gum commercial." They had like signs from that actual like gum company, and a lot of the signs were just like fake companies from various Pixar movies. He had it was like 10 signs from fake Pixar companies are going to be all over this antique store. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, then you guys move on into your next C-Day. How'd you guys fill that?
I did. There was 2 shows from ABC. So the first show I saw was in the Walt Disney Theater, and I'll be honest, I don't know who was giving the talk. She was like, I'm going to say this wrong, but she was like the head of comedy for ABC or something. It seemed like she was a pretty big deal. She was showing us how they actually pick what shows actually become TV shows. So she was just saying how many people like pitch shows to her. It was like hundreds. And then they make a couple pilots. And then out of those pilots, like 2 shows actually like become shows. So they mentioned 2 shows that are going to come out this fall. And then they actually showed us the entire pilot of one of the shows. So that was pretty neat. It was just your like classic sitcom, like there was 2 parents and they were bumbling around with their kids. And of course there was a mother-in-law being all weird. So it's just like your classic show, but it was cool just to say like, hey, I saw this show before everybody else. So that was pretty neat. After lunch, the creator of the show American Housewife was on board. I don't know if you've seen that show. I think there's like been 4 seasons. She was on board. So the creator was on board. And then 2 of the kids from the show were also on board. The boy was probably maybe 14, 15. And then the girl was maybe like 11 or 12. So she talked about how she got the show created and how it was kind of based on her life. And then the kids kind of talked about just filming in general and just kind of being kids in Hollywood. So that was pretty neat. It was different, you know.
I haven't seen that show, actually.
No.
Have you, Christy?
No.
The main premise is the wife is, I'll call her plus size. I don't know what to call her. Her tag is like she's the biggest person in her town, and it's like a town in New England. It's kind of prissy, and she's just kind of in like her flannels and just kind of being like a loud parent who doesn't really fit in. And of course her kids have their little quirks too. But it's a pretty funny show. And I guess it's renewed for another season. So they were kind of celebrating that.
And then that night you went and saw Frozen, right?
Frozen, they actually threw Frozen in the morning
okay.
Because the nights were so filled with other things. They just kind of chucked Frozen in somewhere at like 9 a.m. I think it was Victoria Day.
Okay. So anything that evening then?
This evening, actually, side note, this day I also saw a presentation by Tony Baxter, who is a Imagineer. I believe he's a Disney legend. He actually created like Big Thunder Mountain, and he created the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland. So he just kind of talked about creating rides and working in Imagineering. So that was pretty different. And then this evening was D Capella, which is I don't know if you've heard of them. They're like a musical group. They sing a cappella. So they did a show just singing, and obviously there was no instruments. So that was fun.
That's the one they do kind of like the big band music, but it's without instruments where they're kind of singing? Is that the one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So to go back to Tony Baxter, did they open it up for questions from the audience too? Were people able to ask questions?
I don't remember, but I feel like the answer was maybe, because we were in the Buena Vista Theater, which was pretty small. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember. Again, he was just on the cruise. I saw him multiple times. So that's another kind of cool thing about these member cruises. Like if you want to try to find some of these people, you probably can. Like if you try pretty hard. Like this D Capella group, I just found them everywhere. Like I checked in with them on the first day. They sat next to me at a show. They were right behind me during lunch one day. So these celebrities are just kind of everywhere. Right. It's like, T. Capel, leave me alone. But well, the thing, like, if you try hard, you can really find these people and probably become their friends if you wanted to.
Well, I think that's a huge part of this cruise that they kind of tout for the DVC members, is to make those people available so that you can have those moments. You know, maybe you can't do it while they're on stage, but you can have those moments to maybe ask them about creating Big Thunder, you know, Railroad. I mean, that would be so cool to be able to talk to somebody about, you know, maybe some of the rides or movies or whatever else that they've created for Disney.
Yeah, for sure.
So, well, from there, you guys are on to Victoria. Had you been to Victoria before, or Vancouver?
I had not, and everyone talks about the gardens in Victoria.
Bouchard.
Yeah. I just figured, I mean, to me, that didn't sound exciting. It didn't sound like something I wanted to spend money on, to be honest. So in the morning, we saw Frozen, and then we just got off the boat. They had a free bus that kind of took you downtown. So the bus kind of dropped you off downtown, and then we just walked back to the ship. So we literally just saw, I don't want to say the wrong thing. It was like a big government building that was very pretty. And I think we were there on, I don't want to insult Canada, but maybe Canada Day or Victoria Day. There was some sort of holiday that day. So there was actually like a band in front of this building, and there were a couple totem poles. So we just kind of walked around, took a couple pictures, and then we probably got back to the ship around lunchtime.
So did you see the Empress Hotel by any chance? Was that the
I'm
government
gonna
building,
go with,
maybe?
If it's right next to it, then yes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful hotel. If anybody's into tea and tea time, we've got some friends that are pretty big into it. But that's a great place to book high tea. Is at the Empress Hotel. They're pretty famous for that. But yeah, Victoria is a really beautiful city to visit. Christy, have you been up there?
Well, our cruise, my Alaskan cruise on Princess stopped there. But I never left the ship because we got there after 7.
Oh, that's right. You guys got there so late in the evening.
Right. And the cruise ended the next day. And so I was just kind of packing at that point and getting Blake to bed and stuff like that.
Yeah, we were there all day. I want to say we got there at 9 and didn't leave till like 10 at night. So we were docked for a long time.
Well, that being the last evening, did they have kind of a big presentation to kind of wrap things up then for you guys after your day in Victoria, or how did that last evening kind of go?
No, the last evening was watching Aladdin. So yeah, that was in the Walt Disney Theater. So it was either, first they had one at like 5:30, because actually, of course, the movie's longer than a regular stage show. So they had to kind of start it a little bit early. And then there was one, of course, at 8:45-ish. And then they actually had another showing in the regular movie theater at 10. So you had plenty of opportunity to go check out Aladdin. So that was fun.
Well, we can't end the show by getting to Vancouver without talking about some of the swag and maybe the merchandise available on board. So what were some of the things that you guys were given while you're on board, and what could you buy? Was there anything in the shops that was kind of unique?
I actually only went in the shop once, and it was like right after a show. So it was me and like literally everybody else. But they had tons of, I saw a lot of people wearing like long sleeve DVC member cruise T-shirts. I didn't look very carefully because I knew I wasn't going to buy anything, but they had tons of like logo merchandise. But then they give you so much free stuff. So it's like, I don't need to buy anything that says member cruise. They've given me like at least 10 things with the logo on it. So I tried to remember all the things. And I might have missed some. The very first day, I remember they gave us a Tervis tumbler with the logo, and we got a stainless steel straw with a little straw cleaner for the Tervis. So I thought that was cool. We also got a backpack and a hat that day. Wow. That was pretty nifty. And then at some point throughout, we got a book about, I'll be honest, I haven't looked at these books. We got 2 books, and I'm not going to lie, I don't know what they're about. I think one of them was about the Walt Disney Family Museum, but I'm kind of embarrassed, I don't know. We got a huge, super fluffy Toy Story blanket, so that was pretty cool. We got this, I don't know what to call it. It's a box, like a fancy box. And then inside the box, throughout the cruise, we got these maybe 5x7 prints and the frame, not a frame. What's the word? Like the white thing that's around a picture. I'm describing this terribly.
Oh.
The mat. That's the word I'm looking for. The mat had the Member Cruise logo on it. So we got, I think, 3 prints to put in that box. We randomly got some Canadian maple syrup popcorn, so that was cool. For some reason, we got jelly beans, and I honestly haven't figured that out, why we got jelly beans, but I love jelly beans. Like, it was on the San Francisco day, so I don't know if Walt Disney really liked jelly beans, but I love jelly beans. So that was awesome.
Maybe one of our listeners can pipe in and tell us the significance of you receiving jelly beans.
Also, they were only blue and red, too. So that seemed they seemed very specific. They were delicious. And then on the last day of the cruise, we got a pretty nice, like, white canvas with some leather accents member cruise bag. And there was a little note like, put all your stuff in here because I know we gave you tons of stuff. So that was very thoughtful to give us 2 bags, like the backpack and a nice bag by the end so we could haul all our stuff back home because that was a lot of stuff.
Man.
It was awesome.
I want to go sometime.
Well, Jelly Bellies, were they the little small ones?
They were the name brand jelly beans.
Yeah, so their factory is located in Fairfield, California, halfway between San Francisco and Sacramento, so maybe that's why.
Okay.
You're such a good Googler.
Googled quick as you guys were talking there. I'm guessing that's why. Now, why they had red and blue ones, I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can tell us the significance of that, if there's a significance.
So. I mean, I already ate them. Otherwise, I'd share a picture with you.
How was the popcorn? That sounds kind of good, actually.
It was super good.
Yeah, maple. I like.
Yeah, that was a nice treat.
So, well, cool. Some cool things, a little swag to take home for you.
Yeah, and I'll say I've got my little magazine here open, and there was 4 things I actually ended up not doing. So of all the things I did, which filled my day, there were still like 4 other things that I completely missed.
Wow.
So it was just full of these like special, and everything had, like I said, a celebrity. Like Jeff Curdy, who wrote a book, did a show about a book he had written about Walt Disney. Like, I didn't catch that. I don't know if you've heard of Oscar Martinez. I think he recently retired, but he had worked at Disneyland since day one. He was like their longest tenured employee. He worked at, I don't want to say it wrong, but he was a cook on Main Street. And he was actually on board. He did a show that I missed with somebody else, and they actually had something at Cabanas. They were called Oscar's Potatoes. So I guess it was something that he had made at Disneyland, and they had brought that on the cruise. So they had like a little sign telling you about the potatoes and about Oscar. So that was pretty cool, something different. And they also had another show, just a general Walt Disney show. I missed that. So there was just so much. I just couldn't do it all. It's just so, all the special stuff they do, I didn't miss, trivias and going to the movies and even going swimming because I was just so packed with all these activities.
And cold.
Yes. And I couldn't go outside, so I had to stay inside.
Now, is your husband as interested in Disney and some of the history and stuff like that too, or?
Nope. So I feel like most of these I went by myself because most of them were like under an hour. So yeah, I don't think he went to any of them now that I'm thinking about it. What did he do the whole time?
I didn't mean to put you on the
He
spot.
reveled in his peace and quiet.
Let me tell you, I'm not going to complain about this at all, but one of our favorite places to go is the sports bar. And the sports bar on the Wonder is huge. So the very first day, we go to the sports bar, and that was the room that they had converted into like the DVC sales room. And if you want to talk about your membership, because they have tons of employees. So the whole sports bar was like no sports were happening. And we just walked in, walked around, and walked out. We were like, I don't know what to do. This is where we go all the time. So we're like, where do we go? So that was I was personally disappointed, but I'm not going to complain, but that was secretly I was really bummed, but
yeah. So where did you guys go?
I mean, that's the thing. And also it was so cold that we couldn't even sit by the pool. It wasn't just me complaining as a Floridian being cold. There was nobody at the pool ever. So I don't know. So yeah, I couldn't go to the pool deck and I couldn't go to the sports bar. So I just went to all these presentations.
Amber cracks me up. So I'm just sitting over here laughing at you, Amber. So I love your renditions of the events and everything that happens and kills me.
I also wrote this down in my notes. there was a ton of characters per usual. That's another thing I guess I did. We met a lot of characters. They actually had a lot of Pixar characters, like Doug was on board and Joy. For some reason, Thor was also there. Like, that was pretty good. I don't know if he's always on board, but that seemed like really random that, like, just Thor, like not a bunch of Avengers, like just Thor. But there was one thing that said Mickey and Friends. We're like, all right, we'll meet Mickey and Friends. It turned out to be Mickey, Minnie, literally everybody. Goofy, Pluto, Donald, Daisy, Chip and Dale, like everybody. All in like one photo. So that was pretty neat. I had never seen that before.
They do that on the transatlantic and the Panama Canal cruise.
Okay. They were pretty strict. They were like no autographs, like only one picture per person type of thing. Like you couldn't get a picture with all the characters separate. They were really like moving you along.
If whoever's in your cabin either has to be in the picture or not in the picture, but you don't get to have one of each. Like you don't get to have a picture of just your kid or just you, the adults, or just whatever. It's everybody, one picture. Anybody in that cabin has to be in it.
It made me laugh because Minnie seemed to be running the show here. Because once you got your picture, Minnie would like immediately go up to the next family and be like, "Come on over here." You know, they would just like disperse real quick, so you couldn't like snap a bunch of other pictures. So that made me laugh. But that was cool. I'd never seen that before.
Well, it's good to see. She's a captain now, so she's running the ship.
Exactly.
Was she in her captain wear?
She, at one point, I can't remember for that picture, but we did meet her in her captain. She had her captain's skirt on, but she was still styling.
Well, I guess as we finish up, you guys head into Vancouver. Any thoughts about getting off the ship and flying out of Vancouver? Any advice for people that are traveling out of Vancouver?
Not really. In my mind, our flight was 11 p.m. So I think that was just the least inexpensive flight I could find. So we had literally all day to go exploring. But by noon, my daughter had fallen asleep at Tim Hortons. So we were like, and it was kind of misting and raining. And of course, we were cold. So by that, we're like, let's just get a hotel room. You know, we went to Priceline, got a hotel room by the airport. We all just took a nap and took a shower and went to the airport. Oh, but I do have a note. There's a hotel right by where the cruise docks. And of course, I don't know the name of it, but it's the only hotel that's like literally right there. And they will store your luggage for you. Like, we weren't staying there, of course. But for $5 a bag, they'll store your luggage for you. So that was pretty cool. We dropped off our luggage, and then we started to walk around the city with anticipating of, like, actually doing things. We ended up not doing anything. But it was just still nice. We had, like, 4 bags, and we just gave them to a porter. But it was cash only. So $5 per bag, cash only. And they kept our bags. So that was a real money saver right there. And because we weren't going to lug our suitcases around.
I'm always curious if those cash only situations is the person who's at the front there is just putting that in his pocket and not telling anybody.
Oh, I know. But he said, like, this was the, what's it called? Like the Bell Services people.
Yeah.
They were saying, like, we don't have a credit card machine up here because normally they're just getting bags and helping people get taxis. So it seemed like a legit operation they were running. But we did get our bags back, so it worked out.
Well, it's either the Fairmont Waterfront or the Pan Pacific.
Pan Pacific, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, those are both pretty high-end hotels, so I would be shocked.
Yeah,
I would be shocked if you didn't get your bags back as far as that goes.
It still might not be an official.
No, I'm with you.
I'd be curious about that. I want more information.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm with you there, Christy. I'm with you there, Christy. But I mean, those are pretty. I guess I wouldn't. Even if it's just them pocketing the money, I wouldn't feel bad about leaving my bags there. I think you get your bags back at those 2 hotels. They're pretty high end.
Yeah, they gave us like a ticket to, get the bags back. We had to show the ticket to get them, so it was nice.
In Cancun earlier this week, or at the airport, they don't have a regular lounge, so there's no like Delta Lounge or United Lounge or anything like that. They just have this VIP lounge, and my flight was going to board in like 45 minutes, and my cousin's was a few hours away or a couple hours away, so she wanted to go to this lounge, and so she's like, "Look, I want to pay for myself because I'm going to be here, but my cousin's going to be here for 45 minutes. So what kind of price do you have for 45 minutes?" So he's like, "For me, it'll be $12 for you as opposed to 38." And so she goes to give him a credit card, and he's like, "Well, I can't take credit cards. For this special price, you have to pay cash."
Mm-hmm. Nice.
We gave him the cash, but that did not end up in any system.
That's funny.
Well, that's a good tip, Amber, because I know that we've had some people on that have talked about that before, as far as like what to do with their bags out of getting off, whether they should stay in Vancouver for the day. I think it was Jen. They weren't, so they ended up just driving back down to Seattle. But for our other listeners, if you're traveling out of or sailing out of Alaska this summer, Seattle, the airport at Seattle also does that too. So if you happen to be on a different cruise line out of Seattle, you can store your bags there for the day as well. So if you want to go venture around Seattle, they do have that option there. I'm not sure about the Vancouver airport. I'm sure they probably do it in some sense too. But being able to walk right off the ship and drop your bags there and hang around Vancouver for the day with the flight that late is perfect.
If you take transfers with Disney, they will take your bag as well. So you could always officially do the transfer with Disney and then not stay in the airport. Leave.
That's true.
Yeah, and then I know there's some cities where they do tours afterwards. So I don't know if you looked into that at all. I mean, not that you were going to do that, but
I did, because we were going to be there for so long, and they didn't have any. I was kind of surprised, because a lot of the flights I saw were either like 7 a.m, which obviously you can't do with a cruise, and then like super duper late at night.
I feel like it's really hit or miss. Like sometimes they offer it and sometimes they don't. And I've heard some different reasons why they don't offer it afterwards, but I don't know if any of those are true, but it might be something to look into, because I know that in those cases, they'll move your bags, like you're saying, Christy, to the airport too while you're taking the tour. At least you'll have someplace to put them. Yeah. In
one port, I want to say it was Miami or Fort Lauderdale, they said it had something to do with TSA or security. So right. I don't obviously know if they have that rule. But and I don't, like you said, I don't know if that's really true, but
well, something to look into is as an option if you're going to have a long day. You might look and see what options Disney has as far as their shore excursions that might help you with your bags too. So, but that sounds perfect for what you did.
Yeah, it worked out.
Well, I guess as we finish up, what's next for you guys, Amber?
Well, we have a cruise booked on Norwegian Cruise Line going to Cuba.
What?
But you don't anymore.
Not happening. As of 2 days ago, that's not happening anymore.
Oh, man.
Was your daughter going to go?
No, probably not. But we hadn't officially asked Grandma to watch her yet. So this cruise was kind of up in the air. Some friends were going, so we'll go too. So I actually haven't heard anything from Norwegian officially, but I'm assuming we're not going to anymore.
Here, I just got an email from them.
Because the cruise was kind of pricey, so it's well, I'm not going to pay this priciness just to go to the Bahamas or something. So I think we'll end up canceling and finding something else to do.
You can sail on a revised itinerary and receive a 50% refund of the cruise fare paid, as well as a 50% future cruise credit through December 31st, 2020, or you can cancel the booking and receive a full refund. If you choose this, we must be notified no later than June 11th, 2019. So you only have 5 days to make that decision.
Well, this cruise is in November, so we still have plenty of time to just cancel legitimately, if we wanted to.
It wasn't a non-refundable deposit or anything like that?
Right, yeah, we had just booked it, a regular, nothing weird, so we could have canceled regardless. So yeah, we're still kind of, like I said, we just found out, so we were just hee-hawing about what to do. Or maybe do nothing, so I don't know. Yeah. So that was kind of a bummer, though. It was kind of
such a bummer.
I know.
Well, Amber, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for the laughs. Yeah. I really just cannot. All I do is laugh when you come on.
Well, thank you. Or you're welcome. Or I don't know.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Amber. We really appreciate you being such a huge part of our show. And for the listeners out there, we're going to put together a show about Aulani and talk about that here hopefully sometime soon. As soon as we can fit that in the schedule. And so we'll look for Amber to come back. We'll talk about that. And once you get your next cruise booked, whether it's on NCL or Royal Caribbean, hopefully on Disney, come on back and we'll talk about it, Amber.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. Well, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Well, once again, I'd really like to thank Amber for coming back on our show and sharing her and her family's experience as they sailed on the DVC Members Cruise out of San Diego, 5 days up the coast of California with a stop in San Francisco, Victoria, and on into Vancouver, Canada. There are still 2 more Members Cruises that are on the books right now. One for October 12th, 2019. That's aboard the Disney Magic out of New York City. And just looking at the Disney Vacation Club members website, they're still showing availability for Veranda, Ocean View, and Inside Cabins. If any DVC members would like to, if you're a DVC member and you'd like to perhaps join this cruise, or the next one is in 2020. It's the Alaska sailing August 24th. It says it's sold out, but they're showing limited availability in concierge right now. Of course, you can always waitlist for these cruises as well. So if you want any more information about this, once again, as we talked about, you have to be a DVC member to go on the cruise, or at least to book the cruise. And you can find all that information over at DisneyVacationClub.com. Once again, I'd like to give a shout out to all our Patreon supporters. We really do appreciate everything that you do each month for us. And if you'd like to find out more about becoming a Patreon supporter and supporting the show, you can do so over at patreon.com/DCL podcast. And for all of you who've taken times, and I've been kind of bad about this, about reading some of the reviews that you guys have put out on iTunes or Apple Podcasts now, I would really like to thank all of you who've taken the time to go out and do that. We've got a couple more that just came in. One from George2314. He says, really enjoy this podcast, especially the interviews with other cruisers. Also from Level for Fun, I love the trip reports. It's fun to hear about another trip and how each traveler has such different experiences. Carry on. We will. Definitely going to continue to carry on. And one more today, Joe Liu, who wrote Super Podcast. Love the deep insight of the podcast. We've taken 3 prior cruises with Disney and are taking our 4th later this summer. I look forward to the weekly podcast as research and prep for the cruise. Thank you so much for all you do. Well, thank you, Julu, for going out and leaving that iTunes review for us as well. That helps us get the word out in the podcast and in the cruising community and helps us grow the show. So for all of you who've taken time to do it, we sure do appreciate it. If you have time, we'd love it if you would do it as well over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this podcast. Well, between now and our next show, if you'd like to get a hold of Christy and I, you can reach out to Christy at packyourpixiedust.com. And you can also reach me, Steve at DCLpodcast.com. Of course, you can always follow us over at Twitter at DCL Podcast, and both Christy and I are on Facebook at DCL Podcast as well. So between now and our next show as well, if you are heading out on your next vacation, all of us here at the DCL Podcast would like to wish you fair winds and safe travels as you head out on your next adventure. Once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.